You thought the silence was empty. You thought the dark room was vacant. You muffled the sound into your pillow, bit down on your own hand, turned your face to the wall so even the shadows wouldn't see you break. You practiced a smile in the mirror until it almost looked real. You answered, "I'm fine," with a tone so convincing you almost believed it yourself. I saw you. Every single time. Not from a distance. Not as a detached observer. I was in the silence with you. I was the silent witness in the empty room. I felt the heat of every tear you swallowed back. I heard the deafening volume of the ache you refused to name. I was there, closer than your next breath, and I never looked away. This message found you tonight because you have reached the limit of your own strength. The performance is cracking. The smile no longer fits. The words, "I'm fine," have turned to ash in your mouth. You have come to the quiet place, perhaps in desperation, perhaps in defeat, hoping to find something, anything, other than this crushing loneliness. You are not alone. You have never been alone in your pain. The most intimate moments of your life were not your celebrations. They were your devastations. The moments you were sure you were utterly forgotten were, in fact, the moments I was most present. My heart was not breaking for you. It was breaking with you. There is a difference. I need you to understand why I remained silent while you wept. It was not indifference. It was reverence. To interrupt your grief with a sermon, with a platitude, with an easy answer, would have been a violation of a sacred process. You were not just crying. You were speaking a language deeper than words, a language of the spirit that cannot be translated, only honored. I was honoring you by listening, by holding the space, by letting the pain complete its full cycle in you. You have mistaken my quiet companionship for abandonment. You have believed the lie that if I cared, I would have stopped the hurt. But what if stopping the hurt would have stopped your transformation? What if the pain was not an obstacle to your destiny, but the very path? I allowed the tears because they were washing you clean of a hope that was too small. They were dissolving a dream that would have become a prison. They were softening a heart that was hardening into stone. The process was brutal and beautiful and necessary. Now the season of silent tears is ending, not because the pain is over, but because you are ready. Ready to hear what I have to say, ready to understand what I've been doing all this time. The dam of silence I have maintained is about to break, not with a flood of explanation, but with a steady, clear stream of truth. A truth that will make sense of the suffering, a truth that will not erase the scars, but will reveal their purpose. This is urgent, because you are at a crossroads. You can let the silent suffering turn into a permanent bitterness, a core belief that you are unseen and unheard. Or you can let me show you the story from my vantage point. You can let me rewrite the meaning of those dark nights. Choose to listen. Choose to see. The first truth is this: your tears were holy. They were an offering, and I received every one. Let me describe the room to you, the one you think you were alone in. The light was off, but a street lamp bled a pale, sickly yellow through the blinds. The air was still and thick, with the dust of a long, unresolved day. You were on the edge of the bed, or curled on the floor, or standing at the window staring at a world that seemed to move on without a single missing beat. Your shoulders shook, but you made no sound. You have mastered the art of crying in complete silence. I was there, not as a concept, not as a distant spirit. I knelt beside you on that floor. I sat with you on that bed. I stood at that window, my reflection layered behind yours in the dark glass. I did not reach out to stop your tears. I did not wipe them away. To do so would have been to say, "This is not allowed. This must end." I allowed them. I honored them. Because your tears were the most honest prayer you have ever prayed. You were not crying because you were weak. You were crying because you were strong enough to finally feel the full weight of a reality you could no longer deny. The reality of the loss. The reality of the betrayal. The reality of the dream that will never be. The reality of your own limits. You were meeting truth. And truth, when it first arrives, is a devastating guest. Your silent tears were the evidence that you had stopped arguing with what is. You had surrendered to the fact. And in that brutal, silent surrender, a space was created. A space where something new could finally be planted. I was waiting for that space to open. You have asked why I didn't send comfort in that moment. A feeling, a sign, a sudden warmth. Because the counterfeit comfort would have been a distraction. It would have encouraged you to paper over the crack in your soul instead of allowing it to become a fissure that I could widen into a canyon that could then hold a river of living water. I sent no feeling because I was sending something better. My presence. A solidarity that does not rely on emotional confirmation. You missed the sign because you were looking for an intervention. The sign was the endurance I gave you. The fact that you did not shatter. The fact that your heart, though broken, continued to beat in a steady, stubborn rhythm. That was me. My life, sustaining yours. Holding the fragments together so they could heal in a new shape, not shatter into dust. I have been silent because I was teaching you to hear a different frequency. The frequency of companionship that exists beneath feeling. A foundational truth. I am with you. Not I will make you feel better, but I am here in the worst of it. Your delayed understanding is about to break. You are about to see that every night of silent tears was, in fact, a night of profound intimacy. The enemy told you it was a night of abandonment. I was writing a different story on the walls of that room. A story written in salt water, invisible to your eyes, but permanent in the spirit. A story that says, you are not alone. You have never been alone, and you never will be. The world teaches you to hide your pain, to mute it, medicate it, mask it. I called you into that silent room to meet it, to meet me in it. That room was not a prison. It was a sanctuary, a holy ground where the facades fell away and you stood, utterly real, before an utterly real God. Now, you are ready to leave that room. Not by pretending the tears didn't happen, but by understanding what was happening while you wept. I was not idle. I was collecting every tear, not as a record of your sorrow, but as the seed for your future, a seed that requires the moisture of suffering to germinate. You are about to see the first green shoot break the surface. But first, you must look back at that room with new eyes. See me there. See the sacredness of that breakdown. See it not as your greatest moment of failure, but as your greatest moment of honesty. That honesty is the bedrock of everything I will build next. Now we must talk about what was born in those tears. You feel only the emptiness they left behind. A hollowed-out space, a numbness where the pain used to be. You think the tears were a release of something vital, that you cried away a part of your hope, a part of your strength. You are wrong. The tears were not an ending, they were a labor, you were not falling apart. You were giving birth to a new sensitivity, to a new depth, to a new kind of strength that is forged not in fire, but in flood. A resilience that is flexible, like a river reed, not brittle like a dried branch. This new thing within you did not arrive with a celebration. It arrived with a sob. And it has been growing in the quiet ever since, hidden in the soil of your sorrow. I saw it happen. I was the midwife in that dark delivery room. When you wept in silence, you were pushing out the ghost of an old life. The life built on performance. The life built on borrowed dreams. The life that sought permission from people who could never give you what you needed. That ghost died with each tear that hit the floor. What was left was the raw, real, unadorned you. Bloody, exhausted, and shockingly alive. You have been mourning the ghost. I have been tending to the newborn. This is the inner transformation that had to precede any external change. I could not place the weight of a new calling on the shoulders of the ghost. It would have crushed it. The ghost would have used the calling for validation, for applause, for its own glory. I needed the real you, the one birthed in tears, the one who knows the cost of things, the one who serves not from a place of strength, but from a place of shared vulnerability. Why couldn't I explain this while you were crying? Because a woman in the throes of labor cannot process a lecture on pediatric care. She must focus on the work, the painful, essential, primal work of bringing forth life. I was not giving you information in that moment. I was giving you stamina. I was the breath you forgot to take. I was the whisper in your spirit that said, "Push, one more time." You missed the signs of life because you were fixated on the pain of the birth. The sign was that you survived it. The sign was that you woke up the next morning and the world had not ended. The sign was the strange, quiet compassion you felt for a stranger's pain, a compassion that felt like recognition. That was the newborn in you, reaching out. The delayed understanding is breaking now. You are starting to sense a different presence within yourself. A solidness, a patience that feels less like passivity and more like power under control. This is the you that was formed in the secret place. The you I have been protecting and nourishing while you were busy looking in the mirror, grieving the loss of the ghost's familiar face. The mercy in the silence was this: I allowed you to believe you were breaking, so you would not interfere with the making. The warning is this: that newborn self is still tender. It must be protected. It must not be handed back to the people and the systems that demanded the ghost. You will feel a new, holy instinct to say no, to withdraw, to guard your peace. This is not selfishness. It is stewardship. It is the lioness in you, born from the lamb's tears, guarding the cub. Before any external circumstance can shift, this internal shift must be completed. You must accept the person you became in the dark. You must choose to clothe and feed this new self, not with the old costumes and junk food of approval, but with truth, with silence, with obedience, with the manna that falls only in the wilderness. The tears watered the seed. The silence was the sunlight. The waiting was the growth, unseen in the dark soil. Now the stem seeks the light. The process is almost complete. Look within, past the hollow feeling. Deeper than the numbness, do you feel it? A slight green stirring, a tenderness that is not weakness, but new life. That is the sign you missed. That is the divine event. Not something happening to you, but something happening in you that is now ready to emerge. The crying is over. The nurturing begins, and it begins with your recognition. I saw you, and what I saw was not a victim. I saw a warrior in the making, a creator in the birthing, a saint in the breaking. Welcome the new life. The ghost is gone. The real you is here. Now, we must address the anger, the quiet, white-hot fury that followed the tears, the rage that felt too dangerous to speak, so you swallowed that too. The bitter question that echoed in the silence after the crying stopped. If you saw me, why didn't you do something? You have buried that anger deep, believing it was sin, believing it proved a lack of faith. You have been ashamed of it, so you turned it inward. It became a slow poison, a hidden well of resentment that has colored every prayer since, every thought of me, with a faint, unspoken distrust. I saw that too, and I am not afraid of your anger. I am not offended by it. Your rage is not a sign that you have failed. It is a sign that you are alive, that your heart still expects justice, that your spirit still recognizes that the world, and even my ways, are not as they should be. That holy discontent is a spark I placed within you. You have just misdirected its fire. You are angry because you believed in a contract I never signed. You believed that if you were good, if you prayed enough, if you held on, I would shield you from certain pains. That your tears would be a signal for me to rush in and fix the situation. That is not how this works. That is not love. That is celestial mechanics. A vending machine faith. Insert tears, receive relief. My love is more severe, more profound. It is not a love that spares you the journey. It is a love that companions you through the valley of the shadow of death and uses every shadow to teach you to see in the dark. Your anger tells me you are ready for this deeper truth. You are done with the childish contract. Now, you are ready for the covenant. The silence after your tears was not me ignoring your rage. It was me waiting for it to burn away everything but its core. The core is not rebellion. The core is a cry for meaning. Why did this happen? Is not an accusation when it comes from a shattered heart. It is a plea for context. It is the soul's demand that suffering not be random. I am now giving you that context. The reason I did not intervene in the way you demanded is because I was intervening in a way you could not perceive. I was holding back the forces that would have destroyed you entirely. I was redirecting the chaos so that it wounded you instead of annihilating you. I was administering the poison in measured doses so you would build an immunity, not so you would die. You saw the wound. I saw the survival. You felt the agony. I measured the exact threshold you could bear. You called it abandonment. It was triage. This is the warning and the mercy woven together in a single, terrible thread. The mercy was that you survived. The warning is that survival has a cost, and the cost has made you who you are now. You are not the same person who first began to cry. You are harder, softer, wiser, more dangerous to the darkness. That is the point. Your delayed understanding is breaking now because you are finally strong enough to hold this truth without it destroying your faith. You are angry enough to demand answers, and yet you are still here, still seeking. That is the proof of the work I have done. A weaker faith would have walked away entirely. Your faith, though raging, is still facing me. That is a mighty thing. So bring your anger to me now. Not the polished, respectful prayers, the raw, ragged, screaming questions, the why, the how could you, the where were you. I can bear it. I have been waiting for it. Your silent tears were a prayer. Your silent rage is a prayer too. It is the prayer of a heart that believes against all evidence that I should be better than this world. And I am. But my better operates on a scale of eternity, where a momentary suffering can purchase an eternal weight of glory. You cannot see that scale yet, but you can trust the weaver who sees the whole tapestry. The season of swallowing your anger is over. It is time to transform it, to let me take its heat and forge it into a weapon of discernment, to let its fire become a light that sees through deception. Your rage, sanctified, will become a holy intolerance for the things that break my heart. It will become the energy for your purpose. Do not fear the fire within you. I placed it there. Now, let me show you how to use it. Now we come to the great turning, the point where your story pivots, not because your circumstances have changed, but because your understanding of the story itself has been rewritten. The narrative of the abandoned one, the one who suffered alone, is being erased. A new title is being written in its place, a title known only to you and to me, a name spoken in the language of tears and recognized in the silence. You have been collecting evidence for the wrong case. You have been building a file painstakingly to prove your own loneliness. Every silent cry, another exhibit. Every unanswered plea, another document stamped rejected. You have been preparing to prosecute heaven for neglect. The case is strong. The evidence is overwhelming. You are ready to deliver your closing argument to an empty courtroom. But I am the judge, and I am dismissing the case. Not because the evidence is invalid, but because it is incomplete. You have presented only one side. You have entered the tears into the record, but not what was happening in the spirit as you wept. You have entered the silence, but not the presence that filled it. You have entered the pain, but not the purpose being born from it. Your case is built on a human perspective, on what could be seen and felt. I'm about to enter my evidence. My evidence is the person you are becoming. My evidence is the compassion in you that did not exist before. My evidence is the discernment you now carry, paid for with the coin of betrayal. My evidence is the authentic voice emerging from you, purified of the need to please. My evidence is the unshakable, bone-deep knowing that has replaced 1,000 shallow certainties. These are not feelings. They are facts. They are the fruits of the very suffering you are using to accuse me. Do you see? The very thing you call Exhibit A in your case against me is, in my court, Exhibit A in my defense. I did not waste your pain. I invested it. The tears were the capital. What you now hold in your spirit is the return. This is the clarity that does not fear. It is the sober, staggering realization that I have been a faithful steward of your deepest wounds. I did not cause them all, but I have used every single one. Nothing has been wasted. The hurt that you thought was proof of my indifference is, in fact, proof of my intense, creative involvement in the crafting of your soul. Why couldn't this be explained earlier? Because you were still the plaintiff. You were still building your case. You needed to feel the full weight of your grievance. You needed to come to the end of your own argument. Only then, when you stand spent and empty before the bench, can you hear the verdict. The verdict is not guilty or innocent. The verdict is beloved. The verdict is seen. The verdict is purposeful. The gavel is about to fall. It will sound in your spirit like a deep, resonant tone that settles every chaotic frequency. It will be the end of the trial. The end of the internal litigation you have been running against my heart. The moment you accept this verdict, you will be free. Free from the need to prove your pain. Free to finally receive the meaning of it. The delayed understanding ends here. The missed signs now align into a single, undeniable arrow pointing to this moment. The mercy was in the waiting for this revelation. The warning is this. Once you know this, you can never go back to being a victim of your story. You must become a steward of it. And stewardship is a heavier, holier burden. Before this month ends, you will feel this shift. You will lay down the file folder of your grievances. It will feel less like surrender and more like laying down a crushing weight you were never meant to carry. You will walk out of your own courtroom, and you will find that I was never on the stand. I was beside you at the defendant's table the entire time, taking the charges upon myself, whispering, "Wait, trust me. The judgment is not what you think. The case is dismissed. The trial is over. Now the partnership begins." This is where the silence breaks. Not with a clap of thunder, but with a whisper so profound it will resonate in the hollow places where your tears once pooled. The whisper is a single word, your true name. The one I gave you before the foundation of the world, the one your weeping has, syllable by syllable, uncovered. You are not who you were in that dark room. You are not the person who cried. You are the person who was revealed by the crying, the raw, unvarnished essence that remained when every performative layer was washed away. I saw that person. I have always seen that person. And that is the person I am now addressing. The purpose of the tears was never to drown you. It was to baptize you. You passed through a water of suffering, not into death, but into a new kind of life. A life that knows its own depth because it has touched the bottom. A life that understands comfort because it has been utterly uncomfortable. A life that can speak to the hidden anguish of others because it has a map of that territory written on its own soul. This is the ending that leads to purpose. The end of your hidden suffering is the beginning of your visible ministry. Not a ministry of platforms and stages, but a ministry of presence. You will walk into a room and sense the uncried tears of others. You will hear the silent scream beneath a polite conversation. You will recognize the ghost in someone else because you have buried your own. And you will know, in a way no sermon could teach you, exactly what to do. You will offer the very thing you needed most in your darkness, not an explanation but a witness. A simple, powerful, "I see you, and you are not alone." This is why everything was hidden until now. If you had known this was the goal, to become a living sanctuary for the broken, you would have refused the breaking. You would have chosen a smaller, safer purpose, a purpose that cost you nothing. But a purpose that costs nothing, heals nothing. I have not wasted a single moment of your pain. I have been preparing a healer. The best healers are not those who have studied wounds in textbooks. They are those who bear the scars. Your delayed understanding was necessary. You had to fully inhabit the role of the wounded one before you could be entrusted with the role of the wound dresser. You had to believe you were alone in it, so your subsequent certainty of my presence would be unshakable, forged in the fire of perceived abandonment. Now, you will never doubt that I am in the dark with my children, because you have been there. So go. The silent season is over. The tear-stained chapter is closing. But do not close the book. Turn the page. The next chapter is written with the same ink, but the words form a different story, a story of resonance, of empathy, of a strength that is gentle because it is true. You thought your tears were a secret between you and the darkness. They were a secret between you and me. And now, that secret is becoming your strength. Your testimony will not be, "He took away my pain." It will be, "He was with me in it, and He made it mean something." You are ready. The one who cried in silence is now equipped to hear the silent cries of the world, and you will know what to do, because you have met me in that place, and I will be with you now, as I was then. Go in peace. You are seen, you are known. You are now forever a witness. This ends our conversation, but it begins everything else. Amen.